The story begins by showing us Rikuo, a 5-year-old boy considered pathetic and useless, but who, whether he liked it or not, was the third heir of a clan called the Nura clan. One day, he witnessed a young girl with black hair stab his father with a worn-out, dull sword. After that, the girl turned to Rikuo and gave the most sinister smile he had ever seen, before being defeated. 3 years later, Rikuo was the young master of the Nura house. He was a cheerful boy who enjoyed playing pranks on his servants, pranks that rivaled those of the former supreme commander, his grandfather Nurari-Hayan. Among the favorite targets of his mischief were Aotabo and Kurotabo, assault officers of the Nura house. A little girl named Tsurara accompanied him to school, disguised as a human. One day, he asked his grandfather Nurari-Hayan to grant him the title of third heir. His grandfather replied that he should wait until he became more like a true yokai. Rikuo promised to become a great yokai leader like him. At school, Rikuo often praised his grandfather, telling his classmates that he was the supreme commander of the yokai. However, he had no idea that his grandfather was famous for breaking into other people's houses and eating whatever he wanted, causing trouble for everyone. The other students mocked him, saying that yokai were nothing more than fairy tales created by people in the past. Later, his grandfather took him to a yokai council meeting. There were many powerful yokai there, and Rikuo was excited to see them. The purpose of the meeting was to decide the name of the third heir of the Nura clan. The Supreme Commander Sanmoto proposed his own name as a candidate, claiming that no one surpassed his wickedness. He revealed that all the missing children of the year were his doing, sent into the depths under his command. It was the first time Rikuo had heard of such cruel acts, which left him deeply disturbed. The council began praising Sanmoto for his deeds until they declared him a yokai virtue. Even his grandfather seemed proud of him, something Rikuo found unbelievable. However, Sanmoto was not suitable for the position. Surprisingly, Rikuo's grandfather nominated his own grandson as the third heir. This sparked a huge discussion among the yokai, since despite having the clan's blood, Rikuo was still just a child. Sanmoto was furious when he learned that the embodiment of evil had not been chosen, while a little boy had. However, he held back his anger. Rikuo remained silent, and his grandfather asked why he was not happy, since this was what they both wanted. With the title, Rikuo would command the 72 groups of the Nura clan, which totaled 10,000 yokai. But upon discovering how many yokai were cruel, Rikuo realized he did not want the position. He told his grandfather that he would be even more hated at school and that he was nothing like him, then fled the council meeting. Later, as night was falling, since Rikuo was taking too long to return, Gyuki went to look for him and brought him back to the mansion. He was one of Nurari-Hyan's advisors and a loyal follower of the Nura clan. On the way, Rikuo asked him if he was human, since his mother was human and his grandmother too, but a quarter of his blood came from the Supreme Commander. This deeply disappointed him. When he arrived at the mansion, Rikuo watched the news reporting a landslide in the city of Yukio. The disaster had buried a bus inside a tunnel, a school bus that also carried Rikuo's friends. There were no rescue efforts at that moment, so he decided to act on his own. However, helping humans was against the principles of the yokai, and he was prevented, which made him furious. Suddenly, a white smoke began to envelop him. His voice changed, his hair became white and longer. It was something unprecedented, shocking all the yokai around him. Rikuo realized that no one would listen to him while he was human, but that he could lead them if he became a demon. His blood boiled, and the yokai heritage of 1/4 from his grandfather, the Supreme Commander, began to awaken. Now, he had the right to lead them. Meanwhile, Sanmoto and his army advanced, ready to kill the children on the bus. The little ones could see the yokai and trembled in fear. When Sanmoto approached, Rikuo appeared and attacked him with a sword, wounding him severely. Sanmoto, even though feared, could not believe he was being defeated by a child. Rikuo recognized Sanmoto's frightening power, but declared that he would never allow the yokai to find pleasure in killing the weak. He then stated that he would be the third heir and lead them all. Rikuo sent a message to all the yokai in the world. He was now the Lord of Pandemonium. Sanmoto, who was against him, was killed by Rikuo in front of everyone. Kubanashi, a council member and clan advisor, witnessed the event and understood what it meant to be the Lord of the Night, to be someone capable of inspiring admiration even among humans, and to wear the true mantle of fear. The children on the bus were terrified but considered Rikuo a hero. Right after the confrontation, Rikuo's body collapsed, instantly returning to his human form. 4 years passed, and the position of Supreme Commander was still questioned. They asked the former Supreme how long he intended to remain as a substitute. Nurari-Hyan believed that no one was more suitable to lead the 10,000 demon warriors of the second clan than his grandson. but the council was not convinced. They knew that Rikuo had shown his demon form only once in those 4 years. However, Zen, one of the council members, stated that true fear was when a demon hit his whip. He suggested that Rikuo was indeed the Lord of the Night, and that, on the day he wielded the whip, true terror would surround him. One day, Zen came to visit Rikuo. Zen was a poisonous bird specializing in creating medicines, as well as Rikuo's childhood friend and sworn brother. He had lost contact with the family for some time, but came to see the third commander. Zen commented that Rikuo had not yet assumed command, and that he always became serious when the subject was mentioned. When Rikuo returned from school, he was excited to see Zen. Zen apologized for not attending the general meetings, but Rikuo despised the events, calling them old demons meetings. Zen scolded him, saying he should not talk like that, since he was destined to become the master of all demons. Rikuo, in turn, insisted that he could not inherit the position because he was human. This irritated Zen, who began scolding him for his foolishness. He warned that if Rikuo continued acting that way, the leaders would have no idea who would become the third commander. Even so, Rikuo kept saying it would be strange for a human to assume this position. Zen lost his patience and became furious, declaring that he would not live to see such a person lead. However, due to excessive effort, Zen grew weak and began coughing intensely. Later, Rikuo grew angry with his grandfather for forcing him to travel there, even knowing he should not move because of his fragile health. Rikuo thought that if his grandfather was capable of doing this, then he himself was not prepared to lead the Nura family. A great snake-shaped demon named Inugami took Zen away due to his poor health. On the way, Inugami suggested that Zen should abandon the Nura family, arguing that they were doomed to fall because of a foolish boy. Zen replied that the Zeni group owed its existence to the Nura family, since with their fragile bodies, they were only accepted as worthy demons thanks to Rion, who protected them and gave them a place among the clans. The Nura family counted on many financial supporters, such as the Dharma Alliance and the Zeni group, and had the responsibility of protecting several demons from the mountains and the sea who lived in Japan. Zen believed that the third commander could be the family's downfall. Inugami, wasting no time, stated that his own house would also be destroyed. He felt betrayed by Zen, but argued that he had been betrayed first. Inugami believed that if Zen had taken a more dominant position, he could have had a better role, even as a vassal. However, Zen always put the Nura family first. Even weakened and coughing, Zen still had a mission to fulfill, but he was too weak to act. At that moment, Inugami transformed into a giant snake and attacked Zen. Before he could do anything, Inugami was blocked by Karasu Tengu, who had arrived with Rikuo in his demon form. Rikuo witnessed everything and declared that if Inugami had even 1% of Zen's righteousness, he would have spared his life. With a powerful strike, Rikuo cut Inugami in half. Zen, confused and not recognizing Rikuo's demon form, asked who he was. Karasu Tengu replied that it was Rikuo himself, leaving them shocked. Rikuo then announced that he was ready to assume the title of third commander. Gyuki, however, lamented, saying that by dawn, Rikuo would return to his human form and forget everything. At the general meeting where Rikuo was also present, Nurarion declared that the purpose of the gathering was to strengthen the family and announce the candidacy of Rikuo Nura as third commander. Everything was very sudden, since until that moment Rikuo had not taken anything seriously. Now he was prepared to take the position. He thanked everyone for gathering on a lucky day known as Tanju Jitsu. Then, he apologized for seeming rude when talking about such a high position, but officially accepted the title of third commander. Right after the meeting, a council member informed Rion about an incident in the monster cat's territory. He thought it was just another rebel group imitating the group and stated he would take care of it. However, the clan discovered Shoei and 9 other members dead in the forest. The news was shocking, as Shoei was known for his strength but had been defeated with ease. At school, Rikuo saw Karasu Tengu in a great hurry and visibly shaken. Later, it was reported that his grandfather was missing. Although it was common for Nurarion to disappear, the recent events involving him raised serious concerns. Rikuo said he would investigate the situation. While running back home after school, Rikuo bumped into a student who seemed to be mysteriously waiting for him. The boy already knew Rikuo and said they were alike, young and overflowing with talent. He stated that, although Rikuo had everything from the start, now he was determined to take everything for himself, promising to accumulate more fear than Rikuo could imagine. Confused, Rikuo could not understand what was happening. Meanwhile, Kana, Rikuo's human friend, was being harassed by a student named Inugami, who had a tongue similar to a dog's. Before he could do anything worse, the other student called him, and the two left. On the way, they were surrounded by the 7 pilgrims, demonic leaders of the Shikoku 88 gods, who reference the famous 88 sacred places in Shikoku. At Rikuo's mansion, a meeting was taking place to discuss the chaos that was being caused by a group. Rikuo knew it was the 7 pilgrims he had seen the other day. Could they be responsible for the death of Shuei and the others? There was no certainty, but it was a frightening possibility. The great danger was that humans still had no knowledge of the existence of demons, but with that group causing destruction, this could change soon. The advisors asked Rikuo what the next steps would be. Meanwhile, the student and the 7 pilgrims were on top of a building under construction discussing their plans. Finally, they had reached a point where their dreams could become reality. With the chaos that followed the battle against Tamazuki, and with the disappearance of new leadership, it was the perfect opportunity to overthrow the Nura family. There were still rumors about powerful fighters within the family, especially the Tsuchigumo, who were feared and seen as an essential support base for the clan. The student, who seemed to be the leader of the group, declared that the first step would be to crush the Tsuchigumo. They would begin by causing destruction in Yuku to attract the fighters. A yokai similar to a bird, and whose fear was linked to fire, arrived in the city to terrify humans. He spit fire in a park, causing destruction and spreading panic among people. Yura, an onmyoji from the Keiken house specialized in shikigami, managed to contain the fire and face the yokai. However, the Karasu Tengu from the Nura family arrived in time, forcing him to flee. Later, Kana told Rikuo about what had happened and said she believed in the existence of demons. Meanwhile, the student praised the 7 pilgrims for causing so much destruction. He announced that the next target would be the Nura family's main headquarters. This time, Inugami would be in charge of causing damage in one of the mansion's rooms. Some council members were gathered discussing the plans. Kubinashi, Shuei's son, was furious with the leaders for doing nothing. He wanted to avenge his father's death, even if it was only with his willpower. Without Rikuo's presence at the moment, Zen tried to encourage him, saying he expected no less from Shuei's son. Then, Rikuo entered the room, apologizing for making them wait. One of the members commented that they had arrived early because the matter was of extreme importance to the family. Rikuo, firmly, said that no one should act on their own, and that moving forward without coordination would be unacceptable. He declared that, regardless of what came, the Nura family would face the enemy as one, and he warned Kubinashi to stop seeking revenge. Kubinashi tried to argue, but Rikuo insisted that this was a critical moment and they should not divide, as that was exactly what the enemy wanted. Although Rikuo also desired revenge, he knew it should be taken at the right time. Itaku asked how they would proceed, and Rikuo presented a plan: strengthen the defenses of the territory. Meanwhile, Inugami was listening to their meetings to sabotage the plans. He attacked a group of weaker Ayakashi near the lake and killed one of them, causing chaos. Alerted by the commotion, Rikuo and the others ran to see what was happening. While Inugami, in his dog form, watched with hatred from behind a tree, he quickly advanced and began to destroy the mansion from the inside out. His speed was such that no one could keep up with him. Rikuo went to the front of the mansion, where Inugami met with his team. The student introduced himself as Tamazuki, leader of the 88 demon gods of Shikoku. He explained that his father was the chief of the 800 Tanuki houses. Rikuo asked why he was doing that. Tamazuki replied that he wanted to gather more fear than Rikuo to rise above him. Before leaving, Tamazuki ordered Inugami to set fire to the mansion. The fire-spitting bird launched flames and the roof began to catch fire. Rikuo prevented anyone from pursuing them. Even with his immense strength, Aotabo could not contain the flames, but Kappa, whose domain was the fear of water, managed to extinguish the fire using water from the lake. The next day, all the yokai helped reinforce the defenses of the mansion. Meanwhile, Inugami and Tamazuki discussed the panic they had caused in the mansion and how no one had yet discovered the actions of Sodamitsu Isami. They believed that, when they did, it would already be too late. Awashima informed the council about the recent assassination of Matoi Obe and 3 of his bodyguards from the Oi clan. The incident happened at a time of little surveillance, while he was returning to the main headquarters. He was ambushed, and the council was in shock, as this meant that someone from within was helping the enemy. Rikuo calmed them, saying it was not guaranteed that this had happened. He left the case in the care of Karasu Tengu and ordered everyone to stay alert. In Yuku town, Yura detected a demonic aura. Suddenly, an old woman passed by her and Yura called her. The lady was offended at being called old, which was enough to make her reveal her true nature. The woman used her hair to attack, but Yura quickly defended herself, realizing that she was an Ayakashi. The old woman tried to flee without causing more commotion, running toward the end of the street. She disappeared as she turned the corner, however. Yura managed to track the demonic aura to the Nura house. Yura found her classmates, who were training. Rikuo asked if she had come to join the training camp, but she replied that she was trying to destroy a demon when she ended up at his house. She believed the demon was Kijoro. Rikuo quickly asked if she had done anything, as he knew she was from Shikoku. Yura told how she had come across Kijoro. Later, Karasu Tengu showed Rikuo shadowy images of Kijoro. Under the orders of the young master, they searched in the demonic alleys and found a woman at Beneko's shop. After investigating her, they discovered that she often met with the main members of the Nura family council. Rikuo began connecting the dots. He realized that the Shikoku group was moving based on the information provided by Kijoro. Karasu Tengu was furious that someone had managed to infiltrate their territory and made family members look like fools. To deal with the situation appropriately, Rikuo transformed into his demon form. They walked to the shop, where a counselor was sharing important details of council meetings with Keijiro while drunk. When Rikuo arrived at the entrance of the shop, he saw a long strand of female hair that broke at his touch. Keijiro immediately realized that something had invaded her territory. Sensing the aura of fear, she began to tremble and fled before they could capture her. Rikuo ordered his officers to chase her. Meanwhile, Mamoru was taken back to the mansion, where the leaders scolded him for sharing the family's important matters with Keijiro. Rikuo knew Mamoru had no bad intentions, but he should not have shared details so carelessly. Soon, tension began to rise when Itaku grew furious. He accused everyone of unfairly blaming Mamoru and suggested that the family's problems came from their weakness and lack of unity. Elsewhere, Yura was walking when she again felt the demonic aura. Keijiro had returned seeking revenge. Yura lured her to an abandoned place to avoid further damage to the city. Keijiro questioned why an Onmyoji was working with demon allies, but Yura denied it, saying she would never do anything so despicable. However, Keijiro did not want to talk and promised to show the power of one of the 7 pilgrims. Determined, Yura swore she would not back down, as she was committed to destroying all evil spirits in the world. Karasu Tengu informed Rikuo that they had found Keijiro involved in a battle. The entire Nura family rushed to the location. Yura used her Shikigami to counterattack, but due to her injuries, she was growing weak. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Keijiro wrapped her with her hair, trying to suffocate her. However, she was interrupted by the intervention of the Nura family. The immense strength of Rikuo made Keijiro feel fear. When she tried to face him, even Rikuo's shadow demonstrated an overwhelming power, cutting her hair, her main weapon. Rikuo told Keijiro that he would not kill her, but wanted her to carry a message to Tamazuki, that he should not let a woman do his dirty work. Keijiro returned to Tamazuki and explained the whole situation. She said that Rikuo was not an ordinary person, which made Tamazuki excited. He saw some benefit in intervening in Yuku. After all, he had been waiting for the moment when Rikuo would realize that he was in the palm of his hand. Tamazuki asked the 7 pilgrims to continue lending their strength to him, and they promptly agreed. Back at the mansion, Karasu Tengu pondered whether Tamazuki's true objective was really to destroy the Nura family. It was evident that the family members were being attacked by an enemy, but something did not make sense to Rikuo. If they wanted to wipe out the family, the Shikoku demons should launch a large direct attack. Since that was not happening, it meant there were other objectives. Meanwhile, the paranormal investigation squad was at the mansion examining the destroyed sites in the city. They noticed that all the places had a shrine as the main target. Rikuo was surprised by the information and realized that the attacks were happening in quick succession. While he reflected on this, in the midst of the Shikoku demons' activities in the mountains, Nurari Heian visited the place where the leader of the noble demons of Shikoku lived. The shrine, home of the 108 gods of Shikoku, was called Yamaguchi Hindu. Inugami Jiao, former leader of the 88 Tanuki, was retired, and Nurari Heian went to meet him. The shrine's gatekeeper asked Inugami Jiao if he knew the Nura family, and he replied that he did. Meanwhile, Rikuo was still trying to unravel Tamazuki's objectives. He connected the dots and remembered that, when he rushed to Keijiro's location, a shrine had been destroyed. With that, he understood the plan. He gathered everyone and explained that they needed to split up to protect the shrines that had not yet been destroyed. Rikuo warned that the enemy would probably do something flashy to divert their attention, but they needed to remain vigilant. The objective was to destroy the Tsuchigumo, to shake the foundation of the Nura family, allowing the beliefs and fears of the people to turn toward the Shikoku demons. The leaders were sent to protect the shrines. During his conversation, LRecap-Chan discussed the command of the gods and commented on how both of them had aged. He mentioned Shuei's murder by a demon named Mushibashiri, Mushibo, which made Inugami Zhao pale. Zhao knew who was behind it. He explained that Tamazuki was the 8th son of his 88th wife, and that he had inherited much of his divine power. Tamazuki was gathering fear to become the master of all demons, using the 7 pilgrims to achieve his goal. Inugami, in particular, was extremely dangerous. He used the power of hatred and jealousy, becoming a truly terrifying demon. Now his hatred for Rikuo was so palpable that he could no longer approach him. Tamazuki said that he wanted to leave Inugami as a symbolic figure, not kill him. However, Inugami reminded him of the law of the Shikoku demons. The weak die. Tamazuki smiled and told him to do as he wished. Since he was Inugami, he wouldn't even need guards or watchmen. On the way to Rikuo, Kajoro intercepted Inugami and asked if he would do anything for Tamazuki. He explained that it was Tamazuki who awakened his power, the power of hatred. Back at the mansion, Rikuo was playing with the squad when Inugami began watching the place. He grew increasingly irritated seeing Rikuo being friendly with humans. Inugami hated that Rikuo was accepted by them. Suddenly they received an email containing disturbing information. Demons were haunting an abandoned school building. A projector in the auditorium showed silhouettes of demons when activated. The squad immediately prepared to investigate, despite Rikuo trying to stop them. While Rikuo was distracted by a phone call, the squad left. On the call, Inugami said he wanted to kill him for hiding in the mansion and stated it would be fitting to start by killing his closest friends. Knowing that Rikuo would not allow his friends to die, this was the perfect trap to lure him. Rikuo knew it was a trick since the email had been sent by Inugami. He ran as fast as he could to the abandoned school building, and fortunately, no one had been hurt. The boys were in the projector room, so Rikuo went there to find out what was happening. When they activated the projector, Inugami's silhouette appeared. He told Rikuo that there was no need to save the demons, for he would become the dinner of other demons. Inugami hated Rikuo for being accepted by both humans and demons, while humans would never accept the yokai. Rikuo countered, saying that was not true. Inugami then emerged from the projector, stating that humans were the true monsters, as they treated him like a freak. He considered Rikuo inferior and did not accept his existence, letting his hatred overflow. However, the Nura family officers arrived and immobilized Inugami, preventing him from acting impulsively. Rikuo thanked his friends for saving him, which enraged Inugami even more. He believed that people like Rikuo were privileged and always protected by others. That hatred turned him into a rabid dog. Inugami's past was painful. He tried to fit into human society but was constantly rejected. They called him offensive names, and the girls were afraid of him, not knowing about the existence of a world of demons. One day he was found by Tamazuki. Tamazuki invited him to be his comrade, but first he needed to test his worth. They tied him up like a wild animal to evaluate his powers. Inugami believed he had no abilities, but his will to live and belong awakened his canine form. Tamazuki, satisfied, allowed him to join the group. In the present, Inugami, like a fierce dog, attacked only Rikuo. Before he could fatally wound him, Kubinashi, Rikuo's friend, tied him with ropes that tightened as he moved. Blinded by hatred, Inugami shouted that Tamazuki had transformed him into a true demon and that Tamazuki was superior to Rikuo, who lived with humans. Rikuo tried to argue, saying that Tamazuki was deceiving him, but Inugami, even knowing that Tamazuki was manipulative, valued the feeling of belonging. Rikuo stated that demons and humans were not superior or inferior. Furious, Inugami broke free and assumed his true form, a giant. He attacked Rikuo's allies until only he remained. At sunset, Inugami believed he had defeated Rikuo by throwing him to the ground. But Rikuo surprised him, injuring his paw. When Inugami tried to attack him again, Rikuo cut his forehead. Inugami, mistakenly, thought that increasing his size would make him more dangerous, but he did not recognize Rikuo's strength. After an intense confrontation, Rikuo destroyed Inugami's canine form, reverting him to his human state. Before Rikuo could eliminate him, Tamazuki appeared, preventing his death. Tamazuki saw for the first time Rikuo's demon form and was impressed. He reaffirmed that he planned to steal all the fear and become the true leader. But that would be resolved later. With Inugami, Tamazuki left. LRecap-Chan realized that Tamazuki possessed the legendary treasure, the hammer of the demon lord. With it, Nurarion began to see his allies not as friends, but as tools to achieve his goals. Now it was time for the 88 gods of Shikoku to step in. Tamazuki's sword, Aotabo Shashi, symbolized the proof of the supreme ruler. With it, he would lead the gods and advance. Tamazuki was chosen by the sword as master of the 88 gods. Meanwhile, Nurarion and Gyuki discussed a plan known as Tsa, which referred to an ancient story about a defeated warrior who sought the imperial throne. Inspired by this legend, Tamazuki adopted the name and now tried to become the master of all demons. In the morning, a messenger crow arrived at the mansion warning of a large army of Shikoku demons advancing. This generated panic among everyone. Nurarion asked Gyuki if the Tanuki had already outnumbered the humans. Gyuki replied yes, about 300 years ago, when Tanuki tried to take a human castle. The demons were more intelligent, possessed supernatural powers, and this should have guaranteed an obvious result in any battle. However, that was not what happened. The entire demon army was annihilated. The cause was a single katana that the humans possessed, the hammer of the demon lord. This sword was endowed with a terrifying magic called plague magic. Its power was similar to the concept of a cauldron of poisons. When several poisonous insects are placed together, they begin killing each other until only one remains, filled with the hatred and desire of all those who perished. That final creature is the essence of the plague, and the hammer of the demon lord carried that energy, turning the feelings of the victims cut down into pure strength. That is why it was such a feared weapon. In the council, the leaders were shocked to see the enemy advancing so close. This had not happened in the last 400 years. Zen stated that there was no other choice but to follow the third commander and march against the enemy. But first they needed to understand the intentions of the young master. When they asked about Rikuo's whereabouts, they discovered that he was at the entrance of the mansion, already in his demon form. Thus began what would be a long and frightening night. Rikuo, in his demon form, led the council members toward the enemy. When they came face to face with the enemy horde, Tamazuki revealed his true form. He transformed into a fierce demon, with long white hair and a white mask. Determined to fulfill his dream, he declared that this was the moment to spread fear and death. He ordered his comrades to sacrifice their lives for him, calling them weak. Meanwhile, Rikuo advanced alone across the battlefield. Tamazuki, overly confident, thought the confrontation would end quickly. But Rikuo surprised everyone. He walked directly toward Tamazuki without the enemy army even noticing his presence, thanks to his ability to erase his own existence, a technique associated with his type of fear. Within seconds, Rikuo was standing before Tamazuki and delivered a strike with his sword. Tamazuki, surprised, managed to block the attack with his still-sheathed katana, but began to feel the pressure of Rikuo's power. Realizing this, Tamazuki's army rushed to his aid, but hesitated when they saw Rikuo's sword. No one dared to approach. Suddenly, Hagoromo Gitsune, known as the Sly One of the Night, caught Rikuo by surprise. She was known for creating absolute darkness in her opponents, and, in an instant, Rikuo was enveloped by impenetrable darkness. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Tamazuki ordered his subordinates to kill Rikuo. Unable to see anything, Rikuo tried to react by using a spell that burned all nearby yokai. But that was not enough to stop Tamazuki, who managed to stab him in the side of his body. Tamazuki tried to convince Rikuo to abandon the light and join him in the darkness, claiming that together they could achieve complete power. Rikuo refused, saying that light only shines brighter because of darkness. Frustrated, Tamazuki decided he would have to kill Rikuo. When he was about to deliver the final blow, Tsurara, Rikuo's friend, intervened with her staff and magical powers. She froze the blade of Tamazuki's sword, volunteering herself as an opponent. Tamazuki then ordered Aotabo to show his loyalty by attacking Tsurara, but he could not. Tsurara managed to freeze one of Aotabo's eyes, allowing her to see even in the darkness. Unaware of this, Hagoromo advanced to attack, but was surprised by a cursed blizzard conjured by Tsurara, which pushed her back and dissipated the darkness. With the darkness dispelled, Rikuo recovered and returned to attacking Tamazuki. The battle seemed tilted in Rikuo's favor, but Tamazuki had already expected this. He knew his army was weak and unable to defeat Rikuo's group, so he had an alternative plan. He unsheathed another sword, the hammer of the demon lord. With it, he began killing his own soldiers, absorbing their powers. This strengthened the katana, which seemed alive with the accumulated energy. The sight of Tamazuki killing his subordinates shocked everyone, including his allies. The sword continued to grow in power with every life taken, becoming even more terrifying. Rikuo's companions warned about the danger of the sword. It had the power to annihilate demons and grant its wielder the ability to dominate the world. Meanwhile, Tamazuki continued cutting down everything in his path, including Yura, whom he captured. Rikuo was quick to save her, striking Tamazuki with enough force to destroy half of his mask. Behind it, his eyes gleamed with arrogance. Tamazuki revealed that he wanted to surpass his father, who had led the demon army 300 years ago but failed. He believed his father's failure was the reason humans prevailed in the war. With the growing power of the hammer, Tamazuki declared that true fear was what he commanded and that he was superior even to the supreme commander of the Nura family. Before he could strike again, Kubinashi intercepted his sword with ropes while Rikuo's allies gathered at his side. At that moment, Kana, who was watching everything from afar, became a target for Inugami, who wanted to prove that humans and demons could not coexist. However, before he could hurt her, Tamazuki struck him. Inugami was stunned, but Tamazuki justified his action by claiming that he needed Inugami's power to complete the hammer of the demon lord. Then, he ordered the sword to awaken, beginning the true final confrontation. Tamazuki desired to rule the world through fear. His sword, now pulsing with intense and terrifying power, seemed invincible. Yet Rikuo remained calm. When Tamazuki advanced to attack, Rikuo dodged and soared into the sky. The clash of their swords continued in the heights, while all who could intervene had already been pushed aside. Rikuo stated that he had the support of his companions, but Tamazuki disagreed, saying that whoever is at the top does not need allies. He wanted to build his empire on the corpses of all demons. Rikuo, however, aimed directly into Tamazuki's eyes, full of hatred and rage. Dawn was approaching, and Rikuo's companions feared he would lose his demon form. To overcome this, Rikuo's human and demon forms made a pact. They decided to exist as two parts of a single being, with the goal of protecting both humans and demons. Their souls were now intertwined. Tamazuki managed to immobilize Rikuo in a firm grip, and believed it was the end for him. But Rikuo, with a smile, recalled the moon in the middle of the day, a metaphor that unlocked a new power. Rikuo's body became like smoke, and Tamazuki's sword strikes passed right through him without causing damage. Rikuo then used the Tsukikage curse, the flower reflected by the moon on the water, to cut Tamazuki's shadow in half. This strike freed all the ghosts of the comrades who had been consumed by the sword. Tamazuki's horde began to crumble. Tamazuki, realizing his vulnerability, was left with no alternatives. Rikuo advanced to finish the fight, but Nurari-hyan appeared and blocked the attack. Still out of control, Tamazuki tried to use the sword again, declaring his intention to surpass his father, even if it meant using his corpse as a stepping stone. He soared toward his father's body, which was being carried by two crows. Rikuo, however, attacked and caused the sword to fall from his hands. He confronted Tamazuki, saying that he had betrayed all who followed him out of fear, but that he still had a chance to carry with him the only demon who truly loved him. At that moment, Inugami Jiao leaped near Tamazuki, held him in his arms, and restrained him. He then knelt before Rikuo and Nurari-hyan, surprising everyone. With great humility, he begged forgiveness for his son's actions, promising to make him atone for his sins. After the battle, everyone gathered at the mansion to celebrate the beginning of a new era. Rikuo and his grandfather sat at the main table, celebrating the formation of the young master's new and wild horde. This was also the next great step for the Nura family. Meanwhile, Yura, blindfolded, practiced her water shots, but was still far from perfection. Rikuo went to visit her, concerned because he hadn't seen her at school lately. When Yura asked if he was alone, he replied that everyone was looking for her. Suddenly, Yura's older brother, Ryuji, appeared clearly irritated. He repeated the main mission of the Onmyoji, to destroy the yokai. Without warning, Ryuji attacked Rikuo with a water shikigami. Yura pushed Rikuo aside and demanded to know why her brother had done that. Ryuji asked who Rikuo was, and Yura replied that he was a classmate and close friend. Ryuji was incredulous, accusing Rikuo of being a yokai, something Yura was reluctant to believe. He then conjured a dog made of water and ordered it to devour Rikuo. However, Yura blocked the attack, protecting Rikuo. Ryuji was shocked to see his sister defending a yokai and demanded that Rikuo confirm he was human. Desperate to protect her, Rikuo lied, saying he was. Satisfied, Yura declared that Rikuo was not the enemy, but this enraged Ryuji. He accused his sister of violating the laws of the Onmyoji and, without hesitation, attacked again with the water dog. Yura, exhausted, managed to block the attack, but collapsed weakened. Ryuji gave her an ultimatum. If she did not want to die, she should return to him. Rikuo, now in his demon form, was quick to save Yura. He placed her in a safe place and faced Ryuji. Ryuji, in turn, opened 2 vials from which deadly flowers emerged, capable of melting anything at their touch. In addition, he created a triangular field of water around Rikuo, which apparently devoured him. However, Ryuji underestimated Rikuo. In an instant, he appeared behind him and wounded him with his sword. Before Ryuji could react, Mamoru, Ryuji's partner, attacked Rikuo with Shikigami. The blow knocked Rikuo down, leaving Yura fearful for his life. Mamoru revealed himself to be a childhood friend of Yura, but now someone cold and ruthless. He tried to finish Rikuo off, but when he saw the sword he carried, Nenakirimaru, an onmyoji katana that only cuts yokai, he was perplexed. Despite this, Mamoru advanced, but was stopped by Kubanashi, whose ropes immobilized his hands. At that moment, the place was filled with the army of Ayakashi, the Hayaki Yako, the night parade of 100 demons. They had come to protect their young master. Ryuji, realizing the situation, asked Rikuo who he really was. Rikuo just smiled, ready to face any challenge that came next. He proudly declared that he was the young master of the great yokai family of Eastern Japan, grandson of Nurari-hyon. Mamoru's eyes filled with hatred, and he advanced to attack Rikuo again. However, Rikuo's personal guards intervened, stopping Mamoru. Even Ryuji asked him to stop. Ryuji was not there just to fight. He brought bad news. The mortal enemy of the Keikan clan was on the move. They were led by a great yokai who had united all the Ayakashi of Kyoto, Aotabo Guragura, Agurugusun. He informed that the 8 barriers maintained by the clan had been broken. The leader of the Keikan clan added Mamoru to the ranks and ordered Yura's return. Upon hearing the name Agurugusun for the first time, Rikuo felt immense pressure and palpable fear. Before leaving, Ryuji asked Rikuo to take care of the Nenakirimaru sword. However, Yura, weakened by her injuries, fainted and was taken back to the mansion to be treated. When she regained consciousness, she ran outside, finally aware that she was in a yokai mansion. Under the moonlight, on the branch of a tree, she found Rikuo. She climbed up to him and demanded a definitive answer. Was he human or demon? Depending on the answer, she would decide whether to kill him. Rikuo replied that he was human during the day, but yokai at night. He seemed like 2 people, but in truth, he was one. Convinced by his words, Yura decided to believe in him as a good person and thanked him for all his help. Nurari-hyon, in turn, questioned Gyuki about the truth of Ryuji's words regarding Agurugusun. He never imagined hearing that name again after 400 years. During the Keicho period, many ambitious young Ayakashi gathered in Kyoto, a center of power since ancient times, to determine who would reign supreme among the yokai of the region. Among them was a healing princess, famous for curing any illness with her hands. However, her father, a greedy man, profited from her gifts, something she despised, as she wished to help for free. A man named Kuratabo was assigned to protect her from ill-intentioned Ayakashi. He also gave her an exorcist sword, capable of killing yokai, and which became stronger with every strike delivered. A young yokai who secretly watched her fell in love with her beauty and decided he wanted her for himself. One night, he took her to his mansion. Despite her initial resistance, he promised it would be worth it. Using his power to manifest fear to make himself invisible, Nurari-hyon carried the princess past the guards who could not see him. At the mansion, she spent the night among the yokai, whom she called Ayakashi. During that time, Nurari-hyon asked if she wished to marry him, revealing that his feelings had grown over time. The next morning, the demons of Kyoto visited the princess's father, offering a large sum of money to take her. However, believing he could profit even more if he kept her longer, he refused. Irritated by his greed, the demons killed him and kidnapped the princess. That night, Nurari-hyon returned to retrieve her, but found the guards dead. One of them, still alive, revealed that she had been taken as a hostage to Agurugusun's castle. Agurugusun had the habit of capturing princesses with magical powers, using their livers as a source of energy. Princess Yohime was chosen as the first sacrifice. Before being consumed, she called for Nurari-hyon. Suddenly, his footsteps were heard in the castle. He had managed to enter unnoticed and advanced to rescue her, but was blocked by the guards. Agurugusun was not initially impressed by the intruder. He introduced himself as Supreme Commander of the Nura clan and declared that he was there to rescue his woman. Intrigued, Agurugusun mocked him, saying it was amusing to see a yokai risk his life for a human, something unheard of in 100 years. He attacked Nurarihyan with his tails, causing serious injuries, but the old yokai did not retreat. He kept advancing until one of the tails pierced him. Bored, Agurugusun asked him to be more interesting. She explained that each of her tails represented a time when she had been imprisoned. The princess, confused by Nurarihyan's sacrifices, asked why he was willing to go so far for her. He confessed that her presence brought peace to his heart and awakened a side of him he never knew existed. He wished for her to fall in love with him as much as he was with her. Quickly, he changed his demeanor, and Agurugusun realized that something in him had transformed. It was at that point that the true darkness began. The battle between the Ayakashi began. Nurarihyan cloaked himself in pure darkness, becoming invisible even to Agurugusun. Her tails, unable to locate Nurarihyan, did not know how to act. He quickly found an opening and delivered a blow, wounding her gravely. Agurugusun's yokai energy began to escape through the wound, energy that she had accumulated over years for the child who had not yet been born. Desperate, she pursued the escaping energy, but Nurarihyan continued to press her. In a last, desperate act, Agurugusun used one of her tails to rip out Nurarihyan's heart and consume it, trying to regain the lost energy. Even gravely wounded, Nurarihyan did not give up. He continued to fight, determined to defeat her. At that moment, Hidemoto Keiken, using Shikigami, summoned the power of the 12 ancestral gods. These gods appeared and bound Agurugusun with magic, taking advantage of her weakness due to the loss of energy. Hidemoto revealed to Nurarihyan that the sword he had used to wound her had been forged by himself. Using that sword one last time, Hidemoto cut Agurugusun in half. Before dying, she cast a curse upon Nurarihyan's bloodline, promising to torment them for all eternity. With Agurugusun's death, Nurarihyan became the Lord of Pandemonium. Princess Yohime, who desperately tried to reach him to heal his wounds, decided to remain at his side for the rest of her life. Years later, Rikuo began having flashbacks of the night a young woman killed his father. The Keiken clan was on alert due to the movement of Agurugusun's army. Rikuo, determined, went to his grandfather Nurarihyan and asked permission to go to Kyoto. Nurarihyan's reaction was fury. He disappeared for an instant and reappeared before Rikuo, who was surprised by his speed. Then, Nurarihyan kicked him into the pool outside, calling him a fool for even thinking of facing Kyoto. Rikuo emerged from the pool in his demon form, clearly irritated. If he wanted to go to Kyoto, he would first have to prove his worth. Nurarihyan challenged him, demonstrating his speed and skill by striking Rikuo with the hilt of his sword before he could even react. The combat between the Ayakashi was a contest of fear, and the first rule was that whoever could surprise the opponent would have guaranteed victory. Determined to prove himself, Rikuo brandished his sword clumsily, but Nurarihyan easily dodged every strike. Using his ability to become a shadow, he defeated Rikuo effortlessly. He warned him that if he went to Kyoto in that state, it would be useless. Even so, Rikuo insisted, claiming he had to go because he knew Agurugusun was involved in his father's death. Nurarihyan, questioning whether he had been too lenient in raising Rikuo, ordered Karasu Tengu to summon the Tono family. After 2 days of sleep, Rikuo awoke in a large cauldron in the Tono village, in northeastern Japan. The yokai of the village discussed whether he would wake up or not. If he did not wake within an hour, he would be devoured. When he finally awoke, Rikuo was introduced to the village leader, Akagapa, who explained that he would be an apprentice and learn to master the art of fear. Rikuo rejected the idea immediately, insisting he wanted to go directly to Kyoto. However, upon meeting the trainers, Awashima, Riera of Oku, and Itaku, he began to reconsider. Itaku, realizing that Rikuo did not know how to summon fear, was shocked, especially considering he was Nurarihyan's grandson and a yokai. Rikuo claimed he knew how and was challenged to prove it. Remembering his grandfather's advice about keeping a calm and clear heart, a technique called Meikyo Shisui, Rikuo managed to summon fear and disappear. Everyone was impressed. Itaku then demonstrated how to destroy the opponent's fear, focusing his own fear into his scythes and cutting down trees around, slightly injuring Rikuo in the process. This technique of destroying fear with fear was an advanced skill that emerged from the history of battles against yokai. While Rikuo trained, a yokai from Kyoto named Kidomaru, along with 2 others, invaded the Tono village. They were on a mission to convince Akagapa to join Agurugusun. The Kyoto yokai, led by Kidomaru, declared that the seals around the capital would be destroyed in 2 weeks and that they needed soldiers to help in the conquest. Akagapa, being neutral, refused. Irritated, the yokai left the village, but not before spotting Rikuo near the river. Kidomaru immediately recognized his face, something that had haunted him for a long time. He tried to destroy Rikuo's fear, but quickly realized that he was a powerful enemy. Kidomaru asked if Rikuo was the princess's son, but did not feel that he was 400 years old. He concluded then that Rikuo was her grandson. He threatened that they would take the capital and cut the thread of life of the Nura family. He declared that he would take Rikuo's decapitated head as a gift for Agarugusun and send his body to his grandfather as a declaration of war. When an Ayakashi tried to attack Rikuo, Itaku intervened in time, cutting off the aggressor's arm. Itaku warned the Kyoto yokai that they would be killed if they caused trouble in the village. Rikuo asked Itaku to step back, stating that those were his enemies. He activated his technique called Matoi Koku, which made him undetectable. One of the yokai attacked with the power of 1,000 spinning oxen, but his strike passed through Rikuo's body as if he were smoke. Several attacks were made, but all were useless. Rikuo's ability to vanish intimidated his enemies. When he counterattacked, his strength was so devastating that it cut through the village's protective barrier. Rikuo declared that he was like a flower reflected in the mirror or the moon floating on the water, a dangerous and deadly illusion. Kidomaru, realizing the gravity of the situation, attacked again. But before he could wound Rikuo, he was trapped in a fortress of ice created by Awashima. To be released, he would have to apologize, but he easily did so, saying he would not make the Tono village an enemy. Kidomaru left, but promised to remember that they had helped Nurari-yan's grandson. Meanwhile, Agarugusun was receiving instructions from her advisor on how to extract the maximum power from human faith. He also informed her that the 5th seal would be broken that day. There was a total of 8 seals, distributed in strategic locations forming a spiral around the capital. These seals were created during the construction of Edo Castle and guaranteed 300 years of peace to the shogunate. With the help of the Keikan clan, Kyoto had remained safe for 400 years. The seals had to be broken in the order of the spiral so that Agarugusun could begin her war against the Onmyoji. After winning, she planned to build a castle on the site of the first seal. Witnessing the power of the Kyoto yokai, Rikuo was motivated to train even harder. He had an interesting and versatile fear, but he needed to practice maintaining his invocation active during combat. During training, Awashima brought bad news. The Onmyoji were being annihilated. It was only a matter of time before Kyoto fell into Agarugusun's hands. Rikuo knew he had to save Yura and asked Akagapa for permission to leave training. He revealed that he had met Agarugusun as a child when he witnessed his father's death. That was the moment when Nurari-hyan weakened. Rikuo felt he needed to go to Kyoto, both to face her and to break the cycle of destiny. He asked if anyone would accompany him. Although reluctant at first, the trainers decided to follow him because Rikuo asked with sincerity and respect. With the members of Tono, Rikuo returned to his grandfather's mansion. When Nurari-hyan saw him, he asked if he had learned anything useful and tested him immediately. He leapt toward Rikuo, who managed to dodge easily by disappearing. Impressed, Nurari-hyan allowed him to go to Kyoto, but asked him to bring sweets upon his return. He also said that when he came back, Rikuo would be the 3rd heir of the Nura clan. Before leaving, Nurari-hyan instructed Rikuo to find Hidemoto of the Keikan clan to aid him. He also organized the clan's special transport, the Treasure Ship, a strategic aerial base of the Ayakashi. With the sunrise, everyone on board the ship began preparing. As the destination approached, Rikuo knew a decisive battle awaited him in Kyoto against the devastating force of Agarugusun and her allies. The tornadoes surrounding each seal were a constant threat, representing great danger. As Agarugusun advanced with her plan, only one seal remained to be broken, while she patiently awaited the final moment. Rikuo and his team arrived at the Tori Labyrinth, a confusing place full of traps. As they navigated through one of the gates, a stranger appeared, immediately recognizing Rikuo. He introduced himself as Hidemoto, an Onmyoji who had stood out 400 years ago. Hidemoto was known for his extraordinary ability and for having created the invincible spiral barrier that protected Kyoto. He explained that the 8 seals were, in fact, powerful Ayakashi transformed into pillars to maintain protection, and each of these pillars was guarded by the Keikan clan. Hidemoto revealed that, to restore peace and break the cycle of destiny, Rikuo would need to ally himself with the Keikan clan and return the seals to their original positions. Rikuo questioned how he could accomplish such a task, but Hidemoto insisted that the young man's destiny was to face Agarugusun directly. The onmyoji was already preparing to head to the ninja castle, the last sealed place, where rumors said she had given birth to a child of pure malice. Before they left, a powerful yokai named Susahik Gumo appeared, advancing with lightning speed and killing several minor Ayakashi along the way. Susahik Gumo, with his 4 arms and impressive strength, challenged anyone brave enough to face him. Rikuo ordered his companions to step back, declaring that he would fight the enemy alone. Rikuo activated his secret technique, Matoi Koku, which made him undetectable. Initially, this gave him an advantage, but Susahik Gumo, with his overwhelming strength, managed to dispel Rikuo's fear with a single blow. With that, Rikuo was thrown through the air, gravely wounded, but refusing to give up. His companions tried to intervene, but Susahik Gumo ignored everyone, focusing only on Rikuo. Susahik Gumo's blows were crushing and his power seemed insurmountable. With brutal attacks, he wounded Rikuo repeatedly. Rikuo's companions, worried, believed he had been defeated. That was when Tsurara, taken by rage upon seeing Rikuo's condition, decided to face him. Despite her courage, she was no match for Susahik Gumo. The impact of his massive fist sent her flying. Surprisingly, Rikuo re-emerged and rushed to save Tsurara before she fell fatally. Despite his weakened state, he showed fierce determination, something no one expected. Rikuo was furious at the condition of his subordinates. He shouted that if anyone wanted to destroy the night parade of 100 demons, they would have to step over his dead body first. This declaration made Susahik Gumo turn his attention back to him. Even in his human form, Rikuo managed to accomplish an extraordinary feat. Using his technique, he cut off one of Susahik Gumo's fingers, something that seemed impossible. Susahik Gumo's attacks began to lose efficiency. Bored with the battle, he declared he would look for a more interesting opponent and began to withdraw. However, Rikuo, exhausted and wounded, refused to give up. He continued fighting until he collapsed unconscious, to the relief of his companions, who were grateful he was still alive but knew the danger was far from over. Meanwhile, Agarugusun finally broke the last seal. Her plan was nearly complete, and the war against the onmyoji was imminent. While resting, Rikuo began to be haunted by flashbacks of his past. He remembered when Agarugusun appeared to him as a child. She despised him for being a yokai-human hybrid, claiming that the fox's curse would destroy his lineage. In a moment of pure malice, she tried to kill him, but was stopped by his father, who sacrificed himself to save Rikuo. This trauma had accompanied him ever since, fueling his determination to defeat her. After waking up, Rikuo was determined to continue training to face the destiny that awaited him. He knew brute strength would not be enough. He needed to master his abilities and become worthy of leading the night parade of 100 demons. Meanwhile, Agarugusun advanced with her plan in full motion. The final battle was drawing ever closer, and Rikuo knew that the fate of Kyoto and all his allies depended on his strength and determination.